Este es Roberts. Roberts saca centro. La pelota la tiene aquí. Prepara, punta, tiro, gol.
Hello everyone and welcome to the ROKER RAPPORT podcast in association with the Sun Community Soup Kitchen. It's Gav back once again on the pod for the review show, and this week you join us the day after Sunderland's exciting 2-2 draw at Vicarage Road against Watford. Joining me today to wax lyrical about Tony Mowbray's men is, as always, my mate Martin. Hiya mate.
Hello Gav.
How you doing?
Hi champion.
Good. And also with us is Chris Wynn. Hello Chris.
All right, mate. It's been a while since I've done one of these.
I know. And a good game to talk about. Sunderland doing what they've done all season and competing with a decent team. Coming out at the end of the game with a point. Feels like we won. Everybody's ecstatic. But Martin, I'll start with you. Just how impressed were you with the way we battled on yesterday?
It was a big test, I think. Watford haven't had the best start of the season, but they've got good players, Premier League players last season. And, there were periods of the game where we were under pressure, but I think, in the last 20, 25 minutes especially, we really showed what we've got, certainly off the bench. And, going into another away game, the second away game in, 4 days, haven't got any strikers, got a number of players who, unproven at championship level on the bench, who were just acclimatising to both England and Sunderland. And it was an exciting end of the game, and I think if we'd played another 5 minutes, we would have got the winning goal. It was nice to see Bennette get off the mark, wasn't it? Ross Wallace-esque celebration.
Is it Bennette or Bennette? Because I've been saying Bennette, but
no,
I want to say Bennette.
Everyone else is saying Bennette, so I think it's Bennette. Bennette sounds more exotic, though, doesn't it?
It does. Well, it can be either until he tells us otherwise. But yeah, it was great, wasn't it, Chris, just to see the celebrations at the end and the coming together of the players and stuff. The lads obviously loving the fact that Jewison got off the mark.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? I mean, it was obvious that I can't remember whose face it was. It might have been, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Lyndon Gooch or someone, but someone you could just see it in someone's face, whoever it was, that they just they looked who it was who scored, and then looked at all their teammates and kind of sprinted across to where Bennette was running, as if to say, this is huge for the team, that because of who it was who scored. And you can see in the celebrations, I mean, all of the players were kind of chuckling a little bit behind Bennette, not in a kind of a bad way, but chuckling because it was such a brilliant moment and they were loving it kind of as much as he was, really. And I think if they were to kind of pick a player who scored, they might have picked him, because from Mowbray's comments after the game, he's clearly someone who just comes into the training ground with a smile on his face, and all the players seem to already latch onto him. And actually, I mean, just a little sign as well, how many players were giving Bennette the ball. It was obvious that he's doing something on the training ground that the players are thinking, God, he's got something if I just give him the ball. The amount of times he just got the ball and knocked it past the kind of wing back or full back, and just kind of looked at the byline and just went, had tunnel vision towards the byline and the goal. But you can tell that players are latching onto him, whether it's what he's doing on the training pitch, kind of whether it's his character or whether it's talent or both, I think, by the looks of it. But no, he's looking good, isn't he?
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about the goal later. I will start from the top, though. So the game wasn't all plain sailing for Sunlun, Martin, and we went behind through a goal on the 34th minute. Keenan Davis scoring. It was a fantastic pass, to be honest. I got them in behind. I've seen some people criticising Lyndon Gooch. I would struggle to criticise him. And I've seen a little bit of criticism for Patterson. Yeah, he gets his hand to it. But I think the whole move, puts us on the back foot, because the pass that gets them in behind is brilliant. And, it's just one of them, isn't it? You're going to concede good goals at times this season.
Yeah, we are. And look, I think the pass just split our defence apart, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think Gooch and Patterson are probably easy targets to an extent, because people have got question marks over them to one extent or another. But look, it was a great ball out. Lad got the ball in. It was a tap in. I'd be probably questioning whoever was supposed to be tracking the lad who scored rather than anybody else, because it was nobody sort of within a few yards of him, wasn't it? It was just a simple tap in to to score. But yeah, look, and as I said before, like they've got that quality, and they didn't show it throughout the whole 90 minutes, but they showed it in spells. They were big, strong, fast team, and when they had a few spells in the where they were like on top and they were dominating the ball, and they've got some good players, and if we're not completely on it every single second against players like that, we are liable to get caught out as we were there.
Yeah, you got any complaints about that, Chris, or not?
Well, I mean, people can go on about the ball in behind Gooch and, have a word about Gooch and Patterson, how he dealt with that ball into the box. But, I mean, for me, those are all debatable. We can debate those all day. But for me, it goes back to when, the pass. I mean, yes, it was a brilliant pass, but he had too much time in the middle of the park. And I think for the opening period of the game, that was our problem. But we didn't really fix it because, bizarrely, I found it really weird, to people talking about this false nine. When we didn't have the ball, Embleton and Pritchard looked like two strikers and we set up with two banks of four. Yeah. Which meant that possession-wise, I think first half, kind of Watford had 60% of the possession. And you could tell because Dan Neil and Evans were struggling as a two in the middle because they were outnumbered. But Pritchard and Embleton didn't drop in. And the problem with our first goal was that their player had far too much time in the middle of the park because we didn't fix that. We didn't drop someone else in and have a three in the middle just for that period of time where we were under the cosh a bit just to try and get through it. So, yeah, okay, you can debate Gooch, you can debate Patterson, but for me, the problem came with leaving Evans and Neil to kind of fight it out with three players in the middle, and they ended up with too much time on the ball. And like you and Martin have said, you give that time to quality, and they punished us.
It was a funny one with that sort of period of time where we pushed Embleton right up, wasn't it? Because I think it came from, the first 15, 20 minutes, we were really struggling to get out a lot of the time. Whenever we had the ball, I think, I don't think a number of players had the best game ever yesterday. I think, Dan Neil, Evans and Embleton were guilty of giving the ball away far too easily and they weren't careful enough in possession. But I think we started off with Embleton playing deeper and Pritchard up by himself. And for the first 10, 15 minutes, we couldn't get out. So he pushed Embleton up to try to give more of an out ball on the chance that we'd get a counter to make the most of it. But the risk of that, obviously, is you leave a man less in the midfield. And as Chris said, you give space for a pass like that can cut you apart. So I think Mowbray kind of made a change from an attacking point of view to try to get us a foothold in the game. But unfortunately, that backfired. I think he pulled Embleton back into that midfield three shortly after they scored that goal, didn't he?
Yeah, we didn't give up, though. That was about 10 minutes before half-time. There were a couple of incidents. Obviously, there was the goal, which we'll come on to. But just after their goal, we had the penalty incident with Jack Clark being brought down in the box. Tony Mowbray was adamant it was a penalty. I was when I seen it back a couple of times. I mean, the players don't really appeal for it, to be honest. There's not much of an appeal from our players, but that's a nailed-on penalty in my book. I don't know what you think, Martin.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I think it's one of those, if the linesman's on the other side, we get it. Whether the referee his vision was blocked or whatever, because he wasn't that far away from it, but it happened relatively quickly. But I think if that happened on the linesman's post, we'd have got that penalty. But it's one of them, in the Premier League you get it, don't you?
Well, we haven't had much luck this season, I don't think. Have we really, Chris, with officials? It seems like every week now we're coming and saying we should have had a penalty. I mean, it was Robertson the last game. This week it's Jack Clark. I know that the type of players we've got, the technicians, as Mowbray likes to call it, they're very good with the ball in close quarters when they've got players around them and stuff. And we have got some quick players. It's one that referees really need to pick up on, I think, with Sunderland, isn't it? We're not getting all the decisions we deserve.
Well, I was speaking to someone. I was speaking to a Sheffield Wednesday fan the other week, talking. We were kind of laughing because we all know how bad the referees were in League One. And he was asking us, he says, because we've been talking about it over the last year or so about the standard of refereeing in League One. He says, so the referees any better in the Championship? Just started saying, no, they're just as bad, to be honest. And they've been just as bad this season. But, I mean, just on your point, it's funny because we've now got this team, like you said, we've got all these ball players, we've got all these technicians, we've got, they're all slight as well. I mean, they're all small players, they're all kind of skillful, tricky players. The problem is the initiative from the referees this season has been basically to only give a foul if someone's been kind of half crocked or kind of crippled. And they've kind of changed the rules this season when we've got this kind of want to play this free-flowing football that basically they let all the things that last season would have been a foul. You know, those niggly things where it was a foul last season, but they were kind of niggly and referees would blow their whistle. This season, that level where referees have blown their whistle for a free kick has kind of gone up. So our players really need to take a kick to get a free kick this season. I mean, it's typical Sunderland, isn't it? We get this brilliant technical side and they start changing the rules where people can just hack us and kind of, pick us up and chuck us over in the box and we don't get a penalty.
What did you make of the response after their goal, Martin, from Sunderland? Were you pleased with how we came out? I mean, it's been pretty typical of this team, hasn't it, the last couple of years? We don't just sit off and let teams take us apart. We tend to, right, okay, roll the sleeves up, let's get on with it.
We do, and I think it was interesting as well. I had the Watford commentary on, and up until after they scored, like the two Watford commentators were going like, "This is the best we've played all season. We look, solid with great formation. We're really on it today." And I'm watching the game going, "Well, if that's the best you played all season, we've got half a chance here," because I didn't think they were actually playing that well. I thought they were doing pretty well, but I didn't think they were anything outstanding. And the thing that we know about this team that we've got this season is two things. One, they'll never give up. And two, there's goals in them. And the players know there's goals in them. And I think if you're playing in a team that you're looking around and go, well, Pritchard can score, Clark can score, Roberts can score, Embleton can score. You've got a number of players there who you can just look around and go, there's a chance we've got a goal. And they're all good players at keeping the ball, usually. I know I said before we give the ball away cheaply on a lot of occasions, but generally, when we're on it, we can keep the ball, move players around, move teams around. And, I think we're always going to have that sort of spell of possession in a half where we do dominate the ball for 10, 15 minutes and, create a few chances. And here we had the Clark penalty shout. And, there was pressure building. You kind of see it was coming. And I actually thought, half-time was going to come at a bad time for us here because this is our spell of possession. And we fortunately, we did make the most of it.
Yeah, well, shameless plug, but if anyone listened to the Adam Leventhal pod, we'll plug that as much as possible if people, want to listen to it after the fact. But if you listen to that and talking about, as you said, Martin, that pressure building up on the manager and some of the bad results and things like that. And it was, I thought we responded well. We kind of got on the front foot again really well because sometimes you don't know how that's going to work. But I actually thought you could sense the nerves in Watford as soon as they scored and went ahead. And they just thought, they didn't quite know how to handle that. And they kind of dropped in. They kind of dropped by, 10, 15 yards. But we responded well, like Martin said, we kept the ball better after the goal and we did things better. We kind of stepped it up. But you could sense Watford, that the way it's going there, that they felt the nerves in the stands, the fans got nervous, the players got nervous, but it was good we took advantage of it.
And it's that funny thing, isn't it, when we've seen it at Sunderland so many times, haven't you, where you're going through a bit of a bad spell, you get a goal not too long before the half-time whistle, and you go, okay, let's keep it tight, we'll sit back, keep it tight for the next 10 minutes and get to half-time with a 1-0. And how many times have we seen it where the inevitable happens? And it happened yesterday, didn't it?
Jack Ross springs to mind some of that, doesn't it?
Well, even 10, 15 minutes into the game, I was watching and their fans were getting on their case for passing it around the back and stuff. So I think it was always going to be one of them games where, regardless of whether we were behind or not, because of the general sort of malaise that's around Watford at the minute, you've got to think they've just been relegated, and we know better than anybody how long it takes to get that stink off you. It's not easy. It doesn't matter how good your players are. If your team is used to losing games, it's very hard to get out that habit. And Watford haven't started the season well at all. Tony Mowbray talked quite a lot after the game about how much talent they have in their ranks, and you've got to look at their team and go, there are still some Premier League players in that side, but if their mentality's not right, it brings them down onto a different level. And mentally, Sunderland are in such a good place at the minute. It's the players themselves. I personally can't remember a sort of team spirit like this, like in this sense. I've seen good Sunderland teams in the past, not many of them, granted, but I've seen good teams in the past where we've had quite a lot of experience, quite a lot of leaders, And this team, you look at it, and there's quite a lot of young kids, and it's a totally different atmosphere, isn't it? Like we're not looking at a team now who are full of proven players, or you haven't got your Borleys, your Lee Clarks, or Chris Makins and Kev Phillips and Niall Quinn up front. No, that type. It's not that type of Sunderland team. This is like a different animal to me. They're all young, hungry kids with a smattering of experience in there, but those experienced players still have things to prove as well. I can't remember anything like this, Martin, at Sunderland. I don't know if you can, but you go back a little bit further than me, not too much. But
a bit further. But no, I think it's a different proposition to what I've seen before, what I can remember, really. And I think, I think it's easy to kind of look at the young players, but, as you say, there is people like Danny Bath, Corey Evans, Alex Pritchard, and they're all playing through the spine, and all very experienced players who are good leaders in their own way. I think Pritchard's an excellent leader in a very different way to what Danny Bath and Corey Evans are. And Patrick Roberts as well. He's a youngish player, but he's got a lot of experience. And other players being around Premier League academies and all that sort of thing. So like there is a good core there of experience. But back to your point, Gav, in terms of just the team spirit and the belief that they've got. Like yesterday wasn't a great performance. Like we've seen some very good performances this season from this team. Yesterday wasn't a great performance. We said before, we were sloppy with the ball and all that sort of stuff. But mentality-wise, we're absolutely superb. And I think that's the massive difference that a good team spirit can give you, is when you're not all on it. And different weeks, some players are going to be on it and some players aren't. And we're going to have games like yesterday where you're going to have 4 or 5 players who aren't really on top form, but the team spirit drags you through. Because everyone's going that little extra bit off the ball to get the ball back and help the mate out and all that sort of stuff. And you can see it. And, that helped us get to a point where we could bring on those subs and actually, again, we should have won. 5 minutes more, we would have won that game. And it was the team spirit got us to that point where we could win the game.
But you know where I think that comes from? Because, talking about the last time, the only thing I can probably kind of compare it to is, in terms of just team spirit, is going back to that Roy Keane season where you saw how the players were together and kind of probably in a hatred for the manager or something like that. I don't know, as if he kind of kicked off but it was that togetherness. Probably have to go back to them. But I think with this team, you're absolutely right, Gav. It comes from a different place. It doesn't come from that, like Martin said, it doesn't come from that. Under Reid, it was a bit of a drinking culture and everyone went out for a few beers and they got together that way. This team, I actually think the team spirit and results like the one we got at Watford come out of looking alongside each other and thinking, I've got a good player alongside us here. And just knowing that if you go behind, well, it's all right. We've got Patrick Roberts, we've got Clark, we've got Pritch, we've got, and they look around and we go, we've got these players playing alongside. We'll get a goal or we'll have a chance. And they just know. There's no kind of, how we're going to score here. It's not that kind of team where you're thinking where the goal's going to come from. Even when we haven't got a striker on the pitch, got our 2 main strikers out, they look alongside each other and the confidence and team spirit comes out of looking at the player next to them and thinking, well, he's a good player. We'll get something out of this.
When I was going through those experienced players before who are good leadership qualities, Lyndon Gooch is one I missed out. Yeah. And I think, again, Gooch didn't have his best game yesterday, but you see his reaction to the equaliser, you see his just reaction to things going on around the game on the pitch during the 90 minutes. And he's been fantastic this season, I think. And again, he's somebody who knows the club inside out, who's been there forever. He knows what it means. And I think, I'm not sure where it's come from. It's obviously been built, because obviously you can't put it down to Tony Mowbray. You can't really put it down to Alex Neil, because it was there before Alex Neil arrived. There was the beginnings of it anyway, wasn't there? Whether the playoff victory and going through all of that has really connected and bonded them, which probably will have. But it's been building for the last 12, 18 months, and I think that's symptomatic of getting the right types of people into the club, as well as the right types of players. And that's been done very strategically and very deliberately behind the scenes. Yeah. And I think we're kind of starting to see the beginnings of the impact of doing it that way on the field now.
Yeah. Well, Tony Mowbray said that, didn't he, after the game, when he said the lads have come in and they're not sitting on the bench and moaning about not playing. They understand why they're on the bench. They understand why they're here. They know that they're not just going to be handed an opportunity on a plate. Yeah, you play for Sunderland. You've come to this club. Well done. Congrats. But The hard work starts the day you come into training, and every day after that, you know. And he mentioned about Bennette and all the lads. He mentioned like they weren't just handed the opportunity to come off the bench on a plate. They've shown in training that they've got quality. He said, I trust them. And that's the thing. You know, it's not about ego. There's no egos in this team. I can't think of a single player there where I look and I think, oh, he's got a bit of an ego on him. You know, they wouldn't last 2 minutes if they did. Because, like you say, they're not just looking at what types of players to sign in terms of, you know, qualities on the pitch. They're looking at the individual and who they are and where they come from. Like Jewison Bennette. I'm just going to call him Jewy. Think where he's come from. He's come from like Nout, really. And we've spotted this kid in Costa Rica playing. And yes, he's playing for the national team. That does heighten the sort of expectation around him. But the people in Costa Rica, they're not used to seeing world-class footballers come out of there. So they see a kid who they think, this kid's got a chance, and they see him getting a chance. And the whole country's behind him. That story's unbelievable. And then for him to be the one who scores the goal and celebrates like that. I mean, I think Dave Jones put a post out on Instagram where he said it kind of summed it up really well. I don't know if you read it or not. I'd tell people to go dig that out if they can, if it's still about. But he's been in the country a matter of weeks. He's only just started English lessons. You know, he was found by one of our scouts in Costa Rica, apparently. It's all just been a bit of a whirlwind for this kid. And he's come over here thousands of miles from anybody, really, who he really knows. Doesn't know how to speak English particularly well. It must be difficult. But the hunger and desire to prove himself and become a top-class footballer is what drives him. And that there is no language for that. I think they say that about football, don't they? Football, everyone knows how to play football. It's, you know, you get out there on the pitch and you do what you're good at and you're going to prove yourself. And that's exactly what he's doing. Well, you're going to add something there, by the way, Chris. I did interrupt you rudely.
Just as you were talking there about Bennett or Dewey or Bennette or whatever.
Jerry.
I was trying to think.
Jerry.
I think probably was it Paulo Wanchope, probably the last one from Costa Rica. I remember over here that he was probably the last.
He was class in mind.
Well, we had Brian Oviedo, of course, and
oh yeah, of course, I forgot.
Don't forget about him. And I think there's a Brian Ruiz who played for Fulham. They paid quite a lot of money for him, didn't they?
But
not many though.
But you can just, like you say, I mean, I loved Mowbray's comments about him afterwards, and you're talking about that language of football, and it's clear that that's exactly what's happening at the training ground where Tony Mowbray's trying to get his ideas across to him, and he's just nodding his head and then doing his own thing. But you could tell by the smile on Mowbray's face when he was talking about it, is that he's naturally just a good footballer, and Tony Mowbray is, I mean, to have that trust where there's obviously those problems communicating and will be for a good while, but he's asking him, he's trying to teach him stuff on the training ground. He's not sure he's getting it, but he's known that he's good enough to still put him in and still just say, just get on the ball, do your thing. You're a naturally good footballer. Just get the ball and just go, just play football. And I think that's the beauty of what Mowbray's doing with this team. He's saying, get the ball down on the deck. You know, you're all good players. Get the ball down. Just do your thing. Be positive.
You're right there about players just being good enough to slot in. AJI Alese, last 2 games, has been outstanding. Like, I don't really see how Dennis Cirkin gets back in after the international break. And that's no slight on him, because he's been, I said this the other week, he's been one of our best players, but Alese has been given the chance and he's ran with it. He gets the goal, Martin, which gives us the equaliser just before half-time. Just over the line. I think in the old days we wouldn't have got that, so thank God for goal line technology, because it was very quick, wasn't it? And it was just over the line. But to fashion the shot, to be fair to him, was brilliant. I've watched it back a couple of times, and that's not an easy shot to get away when you look at it. You know, it sort of spills to him, yes, but there are a couple of players around him, the keeper's in close proximity. He manages to squeeze the shot under him, and the lad gets it off the line, and there's a period of about 5 or 6 seconds where nobody really knows what's going on, except Alese, because he's seen the referee stick his arms in the air. He knows what that means. So he's run off to the corner, and then you hear the delayed reaction from the Sunlun fans at the other end who haven't really got a clue what's going on. I think I heard, same as you, I heard the Watford commentary, and they also didn't have a clue. So it was quite funny to listen to, but good goal, even. You know, I know, it was scrappy and it just went over the line, but like I say, did all right to get it in, didn't he?
You know, he's coming on Wednesday night, didn't he? I think his selection probably was a little bit last minute, because I reckon Bailey Wright would have played on Wednesday if he'd been available. And Alese's come in and he has shown himself to be a really good footballer as well as a very good defender. But he's just so comfortable on the ball, isn't he? He's going up and down that line, and look, he's not a natural fullback by trade. He's a centre half, isn't he? But he's shown himself really willing and adept to getting up and down that line, link and play. He's fast, he's quick, he can move the ball. And that shot just kind of illustrated, I guess, his technical ability, didn't he? He kept his composure. He just bided his time a little bit, got the shot in, and was well over the line. And it was really nice, really nice way for him to get his first goal for Sunderland, wasn't it?
Well, talking about that Watford commentary, there was like about 5 minutes after, because they were talking about the incident at Huddersfield, saying, "Oh well, Hawkeye might be wrong this time, and it might not be right. The line and all that." I'm like, "Whoa, hang on a minute." The referee's pointed to his watch. It's a goal. That's it. Crack on with it. And they were even going into half time.
Even at half time, they were saying that all the Watford players are going to be really pissed off by this injustice.
Yeah.
Actually, we've had a look and it was over the line.
Yeah, that's it. They were going just after, and then going in half time. They were going, "I can't wait to see this picture because I'm not sure that was over the line and all that." But just on that point of Bailey Wright coming in and Alese playing in that role, I mean, that role he's playing is such a strange role because at times he almost looks like an orthodox left back getting up and down the line, and then the way we defend sometimes when we kind of come into a block, he's then looking like that third centre half alongside Danny Bart and 09, and he's playing it so well down that side because actually when he gets forward, he's really kind of joining in and being effective at that end of the pitch. But that's why I'm not sure with Bailey Wright. I think if he wants to play, third centre halves or that kind of strange role that gets up and down, Bailey Wright wouldn't have been able to do that. So I wonder if kind of Alese would have gotten a nod anyway, just because he's got that kind of ability to get up and down. But he's playing that role spot on. And like you said, Gav, I mean, Serkin's got a job on his hand when he gets back.
That's what you want. That's the culture you want in the team, isn't it? You want every player to be on their toes. And yes, we've got a fantastic team spirit and they're all in it together. By the way, that's a really difficult blend to have a team where everybody is for each other and supportive, but also be in a position where every player has to be competitive and they're all competing against the team. You don't often get a side where there's that mesh, where the players are all together, but they're also sort of against each other in a way like, I need him to either get injured or slip up to get into the team. They're still for each other, and that comes across every time one of them speaks. You say this. I mean, social media can be crap, but I actually think with this squad, it's great seeing the way they talk to each other on social media. They're all really supportive of each other. I mean, we're going to get on to Bennette. We've talked about him a million times, Jewy. But the stuff after the game with him was great, and it's nice to see all of that. Even AJI LAD, really proud of himself for getting his first goal as a pro footballer, and all the lads were giving him loads of praise on social media and stuff, and it's nice to see, isn't it?
But Tony, I think it comes with kind of the current rules as well, because the amount of subs you can make, and I think Tony Mowbray said it. I think he said it after the game against Watford. I think he might have said it the game before that after Reading. But he's constantly talking about the size of the squad and that all the players are going to play a part, whether it's from the bench or kind of start in the starting 11. And he's clearly had that conversation with the squad to say, look, if you don't start, 100% you will play a part in whatever we do this season, either coming off from the bench or suspensions and injuries. You'll get a chance. So I mean, we haven't got the biggest squad in the world, so it's clearly they're all going to get an opportunity at some point.
Yeah, they scored around the hour mark. We'll come on to that. But what did you make, Martin, of the way we responded from going in at ones each, coming back out in the second half? How did you feel we started?
Yeah, I thought we did as you'd expect us to do, really. I think we continued on from that period that we had at the end of the first half, where we had a bit of possession, a bit of control of the game. Look, Watford always looked dangerous on occasion, but I think we had a little bit more control of the first period of the second half that compared to the first period of the first half. The goal was a bit a bit of a kick in the teeth, really, because I thought we kind of looked like we might get a chance of scoring. Corey Evans does a little tactical foul on their lad.
I like that, by the way.
Clip his heels.
I quite like that because it was
a nice foul.
It was there. I mean, I don't like it in the sense it led to a goal, but we'll come on to that. But the actual, him just giving their flair player a little nick and then having a laugh in his face and stuff. A bit of shithousery, don't mind that.
But it wasn't. Look, I think we've talked previously this season, haven't we? I think it was QPR, wasn't it, where we let the lad get towards our box before we fouled him, and they scored the free kick. And we're going, just clip his heels 20 yards earlier.
Yeah.
And you're giving yourself a chance. And look, it didn't work out that way because we still conceded a goal from the free kick, didn't we? But it showed a little bit more maturity. And obviously, that's Evans' experience coming into play there. And it was nice to wind him up as well.
I think we need to be a little bit careful though, and like I said, I don't mind those fouls. You know, sometimes you just have, the players just have to do it. But Mowbray mentioned it again after the game. We're not the biggest side in the world, and I think against Watford, every ball into the box looked dangerous, and they played quality balls into the box, and they are players who could win it as well. Especially opening period of the first half. They put a lot of balls into the box and they won them all. Patterson, I mean, he had to make some easy saves, so straight at him and all this sort of stuff, but we weren't great off balls into the box. And I think Mowbray knows that we have to be careful conceding free kicks around the box, because I don't think like I said, we're not the biggest side in the world, so I don't think we're great at defending set pieces. So we just need to be careful where we concede those fouls, I think.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a freak goal, to be fair. I mean, I've watched multiple times. I've watched multiple angles of it. I'm not really sure what happens. I mean, yeah, them things do happen. We were on the better end of it when we played Rotherham just before the playoff semis, when their defender comes flying in and sticks it in his own top corner, and these things just happen, don't they? And it's one of them, Martin. I think
Santiago 09, wasn't it? It was.
It was a pretty good goal, to be fair. If he'd done that at the other end, I would have been impressed. Yeah.
I think 09 was one of those who didn't have his best game yesterday as well. And I think he was, I've listened to his podcast, and a few lads have. I've listened to the podcast he does quite a bit. And because he was at Watford and he played like 5 minutes or something at Watford, made his first pro appearance there. And he got released into non-league. And he's really used that as a sort of a motivation throughout the rest of his career to get back up there and make it as a pro. And I think he was really hurt by being released by Watford. And yesterday, he turned in sort of performance of somebody who wanted to prove something.
Yeah, didn't have a calm head.
He didn't. He was so lucky not to get booked in that first half. He went through 3 of their lads, didn't he? Or one of their lads 3 times. And
that was in the first 10 minutes as well. That was only in the first 10 minutes.
And that would have been him suspended for the next game if he had. And look, I don't necessarily think that own goal was a consequence of him having that sort of mentality and attitude yesterday, but it didn't help. And I think he was just trying to get onto anything. And I think Patterson probably could have come out and done a bit better with it, and it was just a bit of a mess up, really, wasn't it?
Well, that's it. I think the goal came out of Luke O'Nien being Luke O'Nien and putting his head where some others wouldn't. And he just kind of threw himself at it, and it kind of didn't go the way he planned. So it's one of those. But I wouldn't want Luke O'Nien to stop doing what he does and putting his head in there.
Oh no, absolutely not. And look, it was only a couple of minutes after he did that lovely chest back to Patterson under a lot of pressure, wasn't it? So like you've got to just hold your hands up sometimes and go, you know what, that was just a bit of bad luck. Lost his bearings a bit and powered it past his keeper.
Just on the general topic of Luke O'Nien, I think he's looked really comfortable. Yeah, he didn't have the best game yesterday, but I think he's looked really comfortable as that right centre-half. And one thing which I don't really see people talking about, which I've picked up on when he's playing, is that he's really good at those one-touch first-time passes that keep the ball moving quickly. When we're trying to when we're sort of trying to break the lines, the ball tends to always go back to him, and he's very good just even under pressure. Those little first-time passes, 5 yards, 10 yards to his left or right, he's really good at that. And that stuck in my head because I see so much stuff, and I've listened, like say you have, to his podcast when he talks about how much like extra work he does. And you've seen him with that, is it the ROKER system that they've got at the academy, where it's like the ball fires at them at pace in the dark and stuff, and it's to try and get them to improve their peripheral vision and first touch and stuff. And I can see that in his game. I can see that he's not the most technically brilliant player, but Luke O'Nien, he does work hard on the little things, and that first touch has served him well this season, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if you think back, but when we were doing our best 11 for League One, Sunlun team, and we had a conversation about Luke O'Nien, and I personally, I've always thought that Luke O'Nien's best period in a Sunderland strip was when he played at the back. At one time, he was kind of our main defender under Lee Johnson when we had all those injuries. But I think you're exactly right, and I think where he's really important is the way Luke O'Nien, like you said, plays those passes out. Sometimes just takes one touch and then bang straight into a midfielder or wide to Lyndon Gooch. And I think he kind of dictates the tempo, the way Luke O'Nien does that. And it makes sure that we don't kind of, become that team that just plays sideways and plods on slowly. Because Luke O'Nien is just his character. He gets the ball, takes one touch, he looks forward, and he looks to play a ball to kind of kick us off. And I think at the minute he's kind of vital to getting us going to start those moves going forward as much as he is kind of defender.
Yeah, we made a sub after the own goal when Ahmad came on for Elliot Embleton. He done really well, didn't he? He had a good period. I'm actually quite impressed with this kid, and I think Tony Mowbray is as well. Martin, he's made a few comments about him, particularly after the game. He said he doesn't think it'll be too long before he's starting games and scoring goals. Do you tend to agree along those lines that he has shown his quality?
Oh, he looks a class act to me. Like his first touch is good. He's pacey. He can link up play well. He passes it well. That ball that he put across to Jack Clark for the goal that wasn't a goal was a cracking ball across, wasn't it? I think whether the difficulty I've got with him is where he would actually start a game. Like what position would you actually play him in? Because he kind of played off the right. Yes, it didn't be like Roberts was also out there, and it was kind of a funny position. I think he was just sort of going anywhere he wanted to try to cause a bit of damage. So where he actually plays in the formations that we've played this season, I would question, because I actually don't know the answer to that. But he's a good player to bring off the bench. You
just mentioned it there, Jack Clark's finish on the volley, a good cross from Ahmad. It was straight out of it. It was brilliantly whipped in. At the time, I don't think people really knew if he was off or not, but I've seen watched the AFL highlights back last night that showed an angle across the line. He is just off. What was your gut feeling at the time, Chris? Did you think he was off?
Well, I think I looked at the kind of players' reactions and none of them were real. I mean, Clark was gutted, obviously. Well, apart from Ahmad jumping into the fans and kind of celebrating for about 10 minutes. I think they had to pull him back from having a beer underneath the stand and all that sort of stuff, didn't they? But yeah, I mean, looking at the other players' reactions other than Ahmad, that it didn't look like they were kind of hammering and saying it wasn't offside and all that sort of stuff and having a pop. So it was one of them. And without seeing the angle during the game, you couldn't really have much kind of comment on it. But like you said, I mean, and just going off Martin's point as well, it was only kind of that came 10 minutes after they took the lead. So if we'd had 20 minutes after equalising, I think you said, Martin, I think would have gone on to win the game rather than kind of equalising with 5 minutes to go. I think we might have gotten all 3 points. But yeah, Ahmad looks good. There might be a chance, next time around if Sims and Stewart are still fighting for fitness, we might see kind of Ahmad played up front. That's the only real position at the minute I can kind of see him kind of slotting in and making his own, because with the form of some of the other players, it's going to be difficult to kind of take their players, isn't it?
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen though as well. I think a month ago, if you'd said we'd have no strikers at this point, but we'd be doing all right, I wouldn't have believed you. So actually, I probably would have, because Sunderland. But yeah, he came on, he did all right. Leon Diallo came on for Dan Neil, and he had a great chance, didn't he? I mean, he does quite well to get away. The ball sort of luckily gets through. I think it's Abdullah Bar who plays it through to him. And he gets in one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and the keeper tries to make himself big and spread himself, and it's not even on target. It goes right across the goal, past the post and out for a goal kick. And you can see in his face, Diallo knows, Martin, that he's missed a really good chance to... Because he's out of all of these young players, he's the one, I think, who's fighting a little bit to just against the tide. I don't know. I think he will get chances, but because he came in a lot earlier and he hasn't really proved himself yet at Sunderland, he's fighting a little bit more to prove himself than some of the others are. And that's how big a chance that probably was for him.
Well, it was a huge chance, wasn't it? I think he kind of did everything right apart from just get his angle slightly wrong. He went across the keeper, put it to the back post, and he was only a couple of inches off target, wasn't it? But it was one of those that he's got to score. And he knows that the only chance he's got of getting a a place in the team on a regular basis, or even getting off a position off the bench on a regular basis, is when he gets a chance to make a real impact. And that was a golden chance for him to do so. And I kind of think he was almost signed by accident, wasn't he? If we hadn't gone up, we wouldn't have made his transfer permanent. But I do think he's got a lot of potential. He's young, he's still young, and he showed last season in flashes that he can stick one in the top corner and cause teams problems. So look, I would be very surprised if he does a great deal this season for us with the competition that he's got for a regular position for a winger. You got Clark and Bennette on the left hand side. You got Roberts, Ahmed on the right hand side. Jack Diamond's form for Lincoln. He scored a hat trick on Saturday. You wouldn't be surprised if there was a position going. We can recall him in January. You wouldn't be surprised to see him come back if he's in such good form. If we think we need extra support out there. So I think Diaku's kind of fighting for his career a bit, isn't he? But it was a golden chance. But as you say, Barr put the ball through to him, and I thought he looked sensational when he came on. Like, he wanted the ball. We talked earlier about the players giving Bennett the ball because they trusted him. Immediately, the players wanted to give Barr the ball, and he was getting on it, passing it around nicely, taking people on. And he's another one just full of confidence. And Tony Mowbray said he looks as if he's been playing the Championship for a year or two. He just took to it like a duck to water, and that's another promising sign.
Just talking about Diaku and his chance, Gav, that the only reason he's on the bench is because we've got 2 strikers injured, and that's the only reason he's got a place on the bench. And like you said, you could see that he knows that this is his chance, and he knows that if he didn't produce during these moments, that as soon as they get fit, he's really going to be struggling for a place on the bench. And I know it sounds like, I'm talking with hindsight, but when he got the ball, I just was never convinced when he was coming through on goal. If you look at it, I think it was his second touch. It put him wide to his left where he didn't want to be. And, someone with confidence would have went across the striker onto his right foot and kind of slotted it past the keeper. And he took himself so wide on his wrong foot just because his touch wasn't great. And he's just... It's a bit like he wants it that much that he can't do what he wants to do. But I mean, just on the subject of Barr and I just want to mention Matete at this point. Both of them coming on kind of changed the game for me. I thought they were both absolutely fantastic. Exactly what we needed at that time. That had that bite in that midfield. They wanted the ball. They played like a little bit quicker, and I thought they were both fantastic when they came on.
Jay Matete was one that got special praise from Tony Mowbray after the game. A lad who we haven't, again, a little bit like Diaku, we haven't seen the best of him yet in a Sunlun shirt. But what I do like from what I see of him, you see quite a lot in the training clips and around the train. He seems to be like quite a big personality, doesn't he? One that the lads all seem to like, especially the young lads. So I would love to see him do well for Sunderland. But yeah, coming on the pitch and, as Mowbray put it, adding some physicality into the middle of the pitch, which we probably needed at that time, giving the rest of the team a platform to kick on. That youthful exuberance that we keep talking about. I mean, when we need to change games in the second half, we've got all these really talented young players to throw on who all want to prove themselves. And as Mowbray has said, they're not moping around. They understand they're here to learn. And they know that their role in this team is to come on and change the game if we need them to. And that's been really important to us this season. I mean, one thing Alex Neil didn't do really was use all of his subs, but Mowbray's been pretty happy, hasn't he, to throw as many on as he needs to in order to get the game going for us, Martin. And like Chris said, it worked in our favour because, as we've talked about a few times, the winner in front of the away end. It does. That's what I was saying at the start. Like, it feels like we've won the game. Dewey, sticking it in, drops on his chest, one touch, bottom corner, absolute pandemonium. What a finish for a kid who's 18-year-old. Brilliant, wasn't it?
It was. He's shown such confidence and such ability in his 2 games that he's had so far, hasn't he? Like, he came on against Reading and just immediately looked at home. Like, his first touch is phenomenal. He takes it on. He's got pace. He's got confidence. He's an 18-year-old kid in a foreign country. It's like, it's unbelievable. Like, he's going to be some player. You can tell already. You can just tell, can't you? He's going to be some player. And, he came on against Watford on Saturday. He had their full back on toast. He kept going at him. He got round him a couple of times, got some balls into the box. He could have had he had a bit of a chance to score before he did, didn't he? And then that ball comes in on his wrong foot, takes it down, great finish. And yeah, homage to Ross Wallace. He must have been a Sunderland fan growing up under Keano.
Was he even alive when that goal was scored? I would have to...
Don't make me feel like
probably a couple of year old, 2-year-old.
But
he would have been 2-year-old. Sorry, but yeah. That's how old.
I don't want to know. I'm not listening. But people forget with Matete that Matete's only 21, and actually at 21, I mean, just looking at the glimpses of him and what he does when he comes on, and he's had the odd game where you thought he wasn't at it, but again, he's only 21. He's still learning his trade, and he's got bags of potential for a 21-year-old.
And this is the thing, right? You've got Matete, 21. Couple of iffy games last year. Some people are writing him off, going, he's not good enough. He'll never make it in the Championship. Get rid of him. Get him out on loan. Cirkin last year. How old Cirkin? 20, 21? Oh, he's not good enough. And now he's been one of our best players this season. Alese, 20, 19? Bad game at Sheffield Wednesday. Oh, he's not good enough. He'll never make it. And it's just like, there's got to be a pattern here, right? Where we go, okay, these young lads coming in, they're going to have some bad games. They'll have some great games. Have some average games. Over the course of a season, as we've seen with Cirkin, those poor games will get fewer and the better games will get more. And that's the whole premise of what this squad's been built around. It's getting players in who've got potential, coaching them, bringing them up, developing them as people and as players. If we can set that standard and that reputation for bringing that type of player in, other players who are 18, 19, 20 will go, shit, that's the place I need to be developing my career at. That's the place I want to transfer to for the next 3 or 4 seasons. And who knows what happens after that. So we've got to just relax a little bit in terms of some bad games and some good games. I think it works both ways. We can't be going overboard and, we're going to be winning the Champions League in 2 seasons' time and Jewi's going to be lifting the trophy. But, there's a lesson in there, I think, for all of us in those regards, because these players have got such potential. And there is a little bit of ups and downs with it.
Yeah, and not just kind of improving this season, but if they keep improving at the rate they are, I mean, what they're going to be like next year and the year after that.
But exactly. That's the thing, and that's what puzzled me with Alex Neil's approach to things when he was going, I want these players. He didn't say it overtly, but he obviously wanted experienced Championship players to come and strengthen the side. And I can understand that from his point of view for this season. Because it's his reputation on the line. He's got to keep Sunderland up comfortably, keep his reputation moving along and all that sort of stuff. But we know the ceiling of players who would come in on that remit. We know the ceiling of a good Championship player, and that's being at the top end of the Championship, bottom end of the Premier League. Mm-hmm. The ceiling on people like we brought in this summer, we don't know what it is. It could be astronomical, or it could be they're playing in League 2 in France in a year's time. But we don't know. And that's, to me as a fan, that's the exciting thing, because this team, the potential of this team is so big at the minute. And, we'll add to it in January, we'll add to it next summer, and we'll keep building on it. And, who knows where we get to.
Well, we haven't even seen Michu yet. That's another one I'm excited to see.
That's the other one, isn't it? And he was him and Bennette were the 2 highest rated ones, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, well, I'll just go around the board really. Bar who came on, out of all the lads we've signed, he's got the most first team football, hasn't he? So although we don't know as much about him because it all happened very quickly. He's away on international duty. He's playing for France at youth level. He played a couple of games 2 seasons ago for Le Havre. He played 18 games last season and he started every game before he signed for us. So out of all of them, he might be the one who is the most ready to actually make a quick impact on the team. And I'm really excited about him. But I'm really excited about all of them. Jewi, going to be a player, you can just see it. He's every time I've seen him on the ball, I just think, when we first signed him, I don't know if it's just pedantic Sunderland fans or what, but we signed him and people were like, oh, but he's another Milton Nunes and all this, And I knew from the minute I saw Milton Nunes touch a ball, he wasn't a player. This kid, you can see it a mile off. He's got so much ability. And It's about how you harness that. Creating an environment at the football club that tells these kids, when you come to Sunderland, you come in, yes, as a very inexperienced but talented player. You're going to leave here as a man, and you're going to leave here as a very, very good player. Or hopefully you grow with us. You know, that has to be the mentality, and
that's the ultimate aim, isn't it?
Yeah, and the point about Alex Neil before, like, Alex Neil is a younger man than Tony Mowbray, and he still has ambitions to manage at the top flight. He's obviously still got a lot to prove. Obviously, when he got there with Norwich, he feels like he didn't get a proper crack at it. You can sense that in Alex Neil. Like, he wants to get back there and get back there quickly because he believes that's where he should be. Where Tony Mowbray has been round the doors, he's seen it all, he's done it all, and he's looking at this opportunity now, and he's seeing like a chance to manage the biggest club in the league, but with some of the best young players in the league, is like one he's probably never had. And that's an unbelievable opportunity as a coach. And if you've got a coach who matches up with your ideas and your philosophy, who sees the potential in what we're trying to do here, I mean, it can only go one way, in my opinion.
You've just hit the nail on the head about Alex Neil and what he wants to do and his ambitions. He doesn't care how he gets to the top level. He just wants to manage in the top flight. That's it. He just wants to be at the top level. Tony Mowbray wants to build something. He wants to build something that, you know, can move forward, and he can see that he can now play the football he wants to play with the players that he's got now, with all these technical players. And Alex Neil, well, he didn't care about, you know, I mean, look, we were pragmatic in getting up from League One because we had to be, and Alex Neil was brilliant at setting us up to win games, no matter how. He didn't care about, he didn't want to look, wasn't bothered about looking good, which is fair enough. I mean, brilliant, it got us up, it got results. Tony Mowbray, he's bothered about building something, he's bothered about developing these players, and he's bothered about doing things the right way.
I think the other big thing with Mowbray is that he lives in Yarm, doesn't he? Like, he's not somebody who's moving house. He's not living in a hotel and travelling back to see his kids every other weekend or whatever. He's here. He's in the area.
Yeah.
He's not having to move house. I read somewhere that the staff are really pleased because they're actually working relatively normal working hours every day, rather than when Lee Johnson and Alex Neil were here. They were working into the night whenever the manager was in town. So like that, those sort of things make a difference as well, because it sets the tone that, you know, this is a permanent thing. It's here. I'm here for the long term, and that's, you know, that is the attitude and mentality that we need with the strategy that we've got from a playing perspective, because it is all about the long term. And look, if we do well this season, finish in the top whatever, brilliant. That's not the ambition for the club this season. It's to have as good a season as possible without being involved in relegation at all.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the early signs, you know, 10 games into the season, and those 10 games, I think we've played, 7 or 8 of the top 10. So, you know, it's not as if we've had an easy run of fixtures to start the season with. The signs are all positive.
He's calmed everything down, hasn't he?
Yep.
It just feels like, I feel very assured. I feel like everything's going to be okay. You know, we're going to do everything right. We're going to be fine. That's how I feel whenever I hear him talk. It's like, you know, Tony Mowbray has been here forever. He's just slotted in very seamlessly. And it's been really, I can't get words out, but it's been really reassuring, to be honest.
I think you've got to give credit to the club as well, and how quickly they moved and got that sorted. Because when you're talking about a seamless transition, it kind of, because of how quickly they moved, I think instead of making it a big thing and dragging it across a week or two, where actually then it was becoming a big thing and it was a big change, just Mowbray just coming in, and the way he's done it as well. He mentioned a couple of times, he went, well, they were doing a lot of things right, so I just left them. And he didn't come in and change everything on day one, and I think he's done it the right way.
I think he's come in and, well, I think he's got one of the best jobs in the game at the minute. Like, I can't think of, I know, like, we heard quite a lot of the negatives from Neil's side and the press and stuff when he left about how things are behind the scenes in terms of the way things run. But I think there's an opportunity for a coach who's, like I said, he's seen it and done it millions of times. There can't be many better jobs in football. Like, here you go, here's a squad that's already going in the right direction. They're all young players predominantly, and we want you to make them better players. Like, as a coach, as somebody who loves the game, that's got to be one of the best platforms to show what you can do out there, really. I can't think of many better jobs. I mean, you were listening, I was listening to Paul Ince after the game on Wednesday, sounding like completely defeated and talking about how his players hadn't trained well that week and all that. And they're above us in the league, or they were at the time. I don't know if they still are.
No, they are.
And I was listening to that and I'm thinking, God, wouldn't it be crap if he was your manager? Like, I just don't care how well they're doing. Like, with him, I feel like he just loves it here already, and he's enjoying it.
I think with Mowbray, there's a few things, isn't there? Like, obviously, he's from the area, and he's took to the club straight away, and he's just fitted in seamlessly. But he talks the right language. He understands the area, understands the people, and it's a funny one because obviously he's a Borough player, Borough manager, but it's almost like Sunderland really fits him well in a lot of respects. But when you're going on about the great job for him, it's a great job for Tony Mowbray at his stage of his career. He's been a manager for 20 years, lives in the area. In reality, if he gets this right, this will be his last job in management probably. So it's a great job for him because he's got a bit of time to develop them. He doesn't have ambitions of going up managing Ireland or wherever. He's quite happy doing what he's doing at Sunderland. People like Alex Neil and other managers have ambition for themselves, and Sunderland's a stepping stone onto their next job. Like Alex Neil will have in his mind, I want to manage Man United or I want to manage Liverpool. Whether he gets there or not is another matter altogether, but he wants the quickest way to get that job, and spending 3 or 4 years in the Championship developing players isn't going to be how he gets that sort of job. So it's a brilliant job. Absolutely agree with you, Gav. But it's only a brilliant job for the right head coach or the right manager. And Tony Mowbray falls into that category.
Yeah, it's the type of job you would traditionally give to a Rob Edwards, a young coach. You don't, when you talk about a project and building something, you never think about, well, what about like an older coach who probably just wants to do something for, because Mowbray has just come off the back of a job where he spent 5 years there. So he probably grew a little bit tired. I remember listening to him on the Quest highlights at the end of last season when they were come to the end of the season at Blackburn. The press were asking him about like, are you going to be here next season? And he was like, I don't know. Well, I've heard nothing. I don't know. And he was like talking about, well, I think it's about time I give a bit time back to me son. He's just starting to play football, and I want to go watch him on a morning and this, that, and the other. He sounded like a little bit. He sounded like he was done at Blackburn. He's obviously had a few months off and went, I want to be back in already,
But I think that's the thing as well about where managers live. And, Mowbray, from my knowledge, Mowbray has lived in Yarm all the time. He's been managing Blackburn. And that's, overnight stays, and you're not going to go there and back every day. So for him to get a job where he's an hour down the road, he'll be back home every night for his tea, like it's a massive thing.
Yeah.
There's a certain time span that you can live out of a suitcase. And, Mowbray has obviously done it a lot. Alex Neil was doing it last year. Lee Johnson was doing it here. So it's, you can't underestimate that. And it's one of those things where everything probably feels right for him.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the difference you could, as you were saying, Gav, the way you was talking about Blackburn, and it's the difference between a job and a project. And I think you can see at Sunderland, it's something to really get his teeth into. It's not slogging along, trying to kind of, get players on the cheap and getting those free transfers. We were talking about that. In an ideal world, you wouldn't really sign. You want technically gifted young players to coach and all this sort of stuff. And like you said, Gav, he's seen the opportunity with us. And it's kind of lifted him because he's like, well, look at this job I've got now. I've got this huge project and I've been given the tools to play like I want to play. And he's got that cushion as well where we're not saying go and win the league, go and get us top 6, go and do this. It's develop these players, and look, just see where it goes. Obviously don't look over, don't make sure we're not looking over our shoulder. But, we're not looking to go to Watford and wipe the floor with them and all this sort of stuff because we haven't spent fortunes, in the summer. It's like, go on, develop the players, play the football you want to play. And I think he's loving it.
Yeah. What we're going to do for the next 2 weeks, we haven't got a game. I know we're all full of vim and vigour and we're happy and excited about Sunlun, but we've got no game for a fortnight or so. We don't play again until we play Preston on the 1st of October, I think, because of the international break. So unfortunately, we have no more games to react to, but we do have a couple of specials which we've got in the can, Chris. We won't give any names away, but we've got some good ex-player interviews coming up over the next week or so for you all, so we will still be here. We'll just have something a little bit different. But cheers, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Nice one. Cheers, Gav. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. Cheers, Martin. Thank you, mate.
Cheers, mate.
And cheers to the listeners. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you catch ROKERRAPPORT.com right throughout the next 2 weeks. We'll be there as well. We'll have plenty of stuff coming. We'll catch you later. Cheers.